welcome to SQ TV. I'm your host Rajni Bharara. Today on the show, I have with me again a very special guest. Her name is Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and she is the creator and founder of Neimology Science. Today on the show, we are going to speak about the secrets and the reasons behind naming a person and what can name tell about a person, the characteristics of a person, and all and more. But before, let's welcome her to SQ TV and also to the show once again. Hi, Sharon. Welcome back to SQ TV and to the show once again.
Thank you, Rajni. Wonderful to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure having you always. And, we are again so much excited to have you back. So, Sharon, I would like to, like I mentioned in the beginning, that today also we are going to talk about, the secrets behind naming a person, and also how can a name of a person tell about the characteristics and, a lot more about a person. So if I ask you, there's a saying, that's what's in the name. If you might have heard that, what's in the name. So you should look. Yeah, you should look, if you want to know a person, you should not always look in the name, or you should not always, you should be rather looking at the person and how is the person. So if I ask you, as you are the creator of Neimology and you know so much about
coming into the world, the soul looks and says, who is going to be the one naming me? Is it going to be mom? Is it going to be dad? Is it going to be a shaman? Is it going to be somebody else? Who's going to name me? And they impress upon that one that's going to name them what they want to be called. Okay, so in actuality, we name ourselves, and that's why it works. So it goes right in alignment with the life plan. And your life plan, even the timing, is hidden in your name. So all of it's right there. So that if you were to forget or, say, why am I here? What's my purpose? Or everything, all of that sits in the name, and when you would be developing different qualities and characteristics. It's really kind of exciting to think that you never meet a stranger. Because the minute you know somebody's name, you know all about them. I jokingly say from the bedroom to the boardroom, you know all about a person once you know their name.
Okay, but also, so if we decide our own names, before we come into the world or before we come into earth, so you are saying that a person or, a soul decides their own name. But when they come to this earth, it also happens with a lot of people that they say that, okay, so we don't like our names, we want to change our name. So why does that happen then if we decide our own names?
Okay, because your own birth name, whatever's on that birth certificate, it's literally laying out your plan. Now, you may not want to be called that. So then you're saying, here, I've got my plan all laid out and it's spelled out very clearly, but now I would rather go by a different name or a nickname. And therefore, what you're going by is what you show to other people. That's how you present yourself. But your birth plan, or what I call your contract with God, is all written in that birth name.
Okay, but all those people who are atheists and don't believe in God, so if
you don't have to believe in God to for all the rules, the universal laws to exist. Just like you cannot see the wind, but you can certainly feel the wind. And if you're sensitive, you can feel God's energy, even if you don't believe in God.
I mean, that's a great argument right there. Okay. So for all the atheists out there. Okay, so great. Let's suppose you're having a particular name, when you have taken birth. So, in your birth chart, you are having a name. But then while growing up, you don't like the name and you change it to something else. Can that affect the characteristics or personality or the future you're going to have?
What it does is it simply changes how you go about it. It doesn't change what it is. So for an example, let's say that I had to get from South India to North India. Okay. And so, and I was going to go around the Eastern Shoreboard. Let's say I change my name. Well, I may now go by the Western Shoreboard instead, or straight up the middle, but it doesn't mean that my destination has changed for where I wanted to go. I may get there a different method or a different way, but I'm still on the pathway to end up where I came to end up. And where I'm ending up and what I will encounter along the way, whether I'm taking the east route, the center route, or the west route, will always be determined by what letters are in your name.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. So you're saying that basically, whether you hold it this way or, this way, but eventually you are going to hold it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So, Sharon, also, I would like to know from you that it also happens, we go to astrologers and numerologers. So, whenever we go to them, so they also tell people that, you should add, let's suppose if your name is Sharon, so what you should do is you should add more A, or you should add one more N. It can change your future, or it can change things happening around you, because
Right. It can make things easier or it can make
yeah,
things
yeah.
harder. I always like to say,
So,
let's make things easier. Like I
so does
had
that really
someone
work?
just
Please go ahead. Please go
yeah, I
ahead.
had someone just the other day whose name was Sherry, Shari, but that was
Uh-huh.
her nickname. And for where she wanted to go and what her life path was, she said, I'm not happy with Sherry. And I said, for where you're going and what you're doing, if you just renamed it Sharee, you would get there that much faster. And when I told her what the difference was, she goes, oh my gosh, that would exactly do what I'm wanting. You know,
Okay.
so so I just
Yeah.
think you make it easier to get there. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to start off by walking from South India to North India. But after a while, I notice that there's buses. So I've got to stop and work so I can get the money for the bus. But while I'm riding the bus, I see that there's a train that goes by. And oh my gosh, that's even faster. So now I want to stop again and get the money for that train, and then the whole
Mhm.
goal is, how do you get on the airplane? you know?
But Sharon, also, I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but I'm just curious about knowing that how can adding a few letters can change, events in your life.
Because sound has vibration and everything, all
Okay.
medicine's going toward vibration, everything's going toward vibration. We create through sound and through color. That's how we
Okay.
are creative beings. And so when you're changing the sounds in your name, because of the spelling, you're also changing the vibration, and then pretty soon you'll resonate to a different vibration. So again,
Okay.
it's how you go about what's in your plan that changes, not your plan.
All right. Great. Great. Okay. So I mean, when a person changes their name, so do they really have to change it in the birth certificate, or what do they need to do, or what's the process?
Okay, they change it legally. They don't have to change it on the birth certificate, but they have to change it legally. Like when you go down to the courthouse and you say, I want to change my name, and you change it legally. And the minute it's changed legally, that new energy starts taking effect. And then it's like an hourglass of time, and it just slowly lets the sand coming out. And so it takes 7 years to totally change it. But you'll see that all of it is totally in place within 7 years. But it comes in very slowly so it doesn't jar you.
Okay, that's amazing. That's really interesting. With this also, Sharon, okay, I mean, whenever you meet your clients, or by knowing their name, let's suppose you know my name. My name is Rajni. So can you know with my name? Can you know why am I born, or for what purpose am I born?
Yes, I can. There's always an overall purpose and 7 subsets, so that if you match the 7 subsets, you've accomplished your overall purpose. Like one of the things in your name that I just love is that you've got intuition and native intelligence, where you can tap in and you can receive answers for yourself. And then your name also says that you're a very hard worker. You only have 2 speeds, 100 miles an hour and 0 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You work until you drop, type of thing. And it also says that you don't like anybody who's not honest. You have no patience for them. You may have to be polite to them, but you don't trust them once they've told you not to trust them just once. Okay. So there's a lot of things in your name. Also, like, you have a really good memory for anything you're interested in. What you're not interested in, who cares anyway? Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And that you made yourself likable because you want to be liked. You think that's important, but you're not going to change who you are to get somebody to like you. But one of the major things in your name that you came to do is literally to intend safety. For people have a tendency to take from you what you do not want to give. So that can show up in the physical plane by theft, or physically touching you in ways you don't want to be touched. Okay. It can show up in the emotional plane by causing you to worry. It can show up in the mental plane by stealing your ideas and taking credit for them. It can show up in many different ways. But one of the key things, one of the 7 that you came to learn, was how to always think safety. So if that's in your name, I always say, if you're going to a party and you've got a glass, you hold it with one hand, you put your other hand on top the whole time so nobody can add in there anything you don't know that they're adding in there. Or if you have a soda can, you keep your thumb over the opening the whole time, you know. And so if you're going to a theater, you sit on the side. So if something negative would happen in that theater, you don't have to get over very many people to get out. You know, so you're always thinking safety. Am I parking underneath the light? You know, is somebody walking me out? You know, one of the things is absolutely to learn safety. Then another thing that's in your name, it says, learn how to take a ton of attention. Can I hold my own when I'm gathering a lot of attention? And will that go to my head? Or can I stay humble as I'm gaining attention? So that's another one that's in your name. So that's an example of 2 out of your 7. So it's like, and then it all accumulates into, here's your overall goal. But yes, the name says that. And it even says what time periods you're going to be learning those things or working on each of those things, and how much time you gave yourself to accomplish that.
I mean, that's really, really interesting. And, I think not a lot of things, but everything that you told me is absolutely correct. And all the things that you predicted about me is absolutely correct. So, which is making it even more interesting for all the audiences who might be doubting it, even a bit. I would like to tell you that all the things that Sharon has predicted about me are absolutely correct. So this makes me curious to know, Sharon, that if we want to know about someone, or if we want to learn about a person's characteristics, or whether the person is good for us or bad for us, so how can we know? And please go ahead.
Yeah. So you can compare 2 names. You can literally look at 2 names and compare and know if they're good or they're not good. Like, for an example, just today, one of the companies I work for with their HR department, they wrote me and they said, this lady is the one in charge and she's having problems with these 2 ladies. What can we do? How can we help solve this? Because I'm over all of them, right? And so I wrote back and I said, well, the real problem is that those 2 ladies she's having problems with, even though she's the one in charge, they're smarter than she is, And so she keeps trying to tell them what to do, and they know a smarter way to do it. And so anyway, it's just how they go about things is very different. And I wrote a long thing for them on what you can do. But it's interesting because you can compare 2 names, and you not only see where the conflicts are going to be, you also see the solution to those conflicts. And that's what I think is so cool. All the solutions are also hidden in your name.
Okay. So, let's suppose, so are there also any particular letters that we should be careful about? Let's suppose, these letters are in a person's name. Okay, so these letters might not be good for you. So you should stay away from the person or from the people who are having such letters in their name. So is there a thing like that?
There are some letters like that. There are like 4 ways that temper shows up in the name. And one of those ways, the temper, they can get mad enough to literally kill you. There's ways where psychopathy shows up in a name. Okay. And then you have your own preferences. Like there's some names, like for example, Heather. I don't do well with Heathers. As a whole, they seem to me to be very pushy and very demanding. And then they kind of work behind your back and they just don't listen. It doesn't matter what the truth is. They want it their way. And so the qualities, they're confrontational. And so the qualities in their name simply rub me the wrong way. But that doesn't mean that they're going to rub everybody the wrong way. So when people are having a longer session with me, I can go through 2 and say, here's the letter combinations that are more challenging for you than other ones.
Okay. So can you also predict future for, let's suppose a client is coming to you and is asking for the meaning behind the name and the purpose and everything. So can you also predict the future as a numerologist or astrologer or a tarot card reader would do?
Yes. And it's in timing, chunks of time, because it says, this is your focus for this much time, then it changes on this birthday, and then it's your focus here, and then it changes again, and it's your focus. So the answer is yes, it can always give you your focus.
Okay, interesting. So also, Sharon, when you want to do astrology, so you have to learn astrology. In numerology, you have to learn numerology and so on and so forth. But when it comes to neimology, what study do you have to do, or what college do you have to go if you want to become a numerology expert, or if you want to know
Okay, so you
numerology
don't
science?
have to go to college. You can take the classes online, or you can teach yourself through the books that I've written. And so since I created it, I've got the books and I do the classes online. And you can, what I do for a class, Rajni, is you literally take like the first class, the first level, the basics of everything. And that's what most people need, you know, if they don't need to go in depth this far. That's pretty satisfying for most. So it is 15 hours and it's divided into 6 segments. And at the end of every segment, you get to call me and ask me any questions you have on that segment that you just took, because I want to make sure everybody understands it before they start the next segment, you know. And it's pretty cut and dry because I had 40 years in education. And so, I mean, I know how to teach. And so it's all there with the mnemonic devices and how do you remember this and the stories that go with it. So that literally after 15 hours, you've got it. You know, and you're certified to get a 1 hour reading after 15 hours with me.
Okay.
And that's all,
so just after 15 hours.
Yeah, it takes 15 hours to learn the basics, enough where you can give a 1 hour reading. And then if you want to take level 2, then you're able to give a 2 hour reading because you're able to go into more depth, you know. But it's very easy to learn. A lot of people that have studied human design, which takes into the numerology and the astrology, and it's really complicated. They've come to take my course and they said, oh my God, it gives me all the same answers as human design. And this is so easy to do. And so something that took me 15 years to figure out all the patterns, literally I can teach it in 15 hours.
I mean, that's really interesting. So how can people who are watching us or will be later, I mean, how can they register if they want to learn?
Oh, they just go online to knowthename.com, and then they go to the services tab, and it's right there. You get 4 choices. Do you want a reading? Do you want classes? You know, I mean, all of it's right there. And everything's very well defined what you're going to get.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, so Sharon, also, you know, you have written 3 books. So know the name, know the person, know the name, know how to connect, and know the name, know the spirit. So let's talk about your first book. So what kind of detailing is in your first book? I mean, obviously, you know, you have to know the name and know the person. So when we talk about knowing a name and knowing a person, so I mean, if I can ask you, how many pages of book is that?
Oh, that's about 350. And it literally, I always say, skip the middle school years to chapters 6, 7, and 8. And use those as resource. If not, you'll get boggled down because that's all your combinations of letters and you can get lost in there. So if you read chapters 1 through 5 and then skip until 9 and go on, and then if you use the middle chapters, I wanted to put everything in one book so that you would have it all. A lot of my friends said, oh, you should have made 2 books out of this. And I thought, I have fairness issues in my name, and just as you have fairness issues in yours. And I thought, well, that's not fair that you have to buy 2 books to get the system. So know the name, know the person stands for know the name, know the personality. Whereas know the name, know the spirit stands for why are you here? You know, what's your purpose? That's what's in that one. And then know the name, know how to connect is literally, you only have to learn 6 letters, but there's so much information in those 6 letters. It will help you connect, know what kind of long-term friendships, what they require of you for that, what kind of gifts they like, what their learning style is, whether they're passive aggressive or not. I mean, all kinds of things. And it's just a simple way of knowing how to connect with somebody right away. Okay? Also, like for example, if somebody wanted to connect with you, Rajni, right away, they would get down to business right away. You don't want your time wasted. You know, it's like immediately, what do you want? If somebody calls you up and says, hi, how are you? How's it going? You're already saying you're wasting my time. What do you want? Okay.
True.
You know, whereas some other people, depending on their letters, if you don't go through that, how are you? How's everything at home? How's everybody? Then they think you don't care about them, and then they won't work well with you. So, I mean, all those things are in know the name, know how to connect.
Okay. That's really amazing. But, you know, now talking about know the name, know the spirit. So I have a question about this book. So Sharon, you know, when we talk about souls, so people say that you can't really know the soul. I mean, the soul, I think it's said in all the religion, and that soul is eternal and soul has no name. It has no identity. So when you talk about know the name, know the spirit, I mean, what do a person know about the spirit?
Okay, so the soul has a purpose why you're here. So, we have one continuous, really long life. Okay, life does not end. So some people call that reincarnation, where you're going and you're coming, but it's really one continuous life, whether you're here or somewhere else. Okay, and where you leave off is always where you begin. So in the name, it lets you know where you left off in your last lifetime, and now what you're adding to it in this lifetime. So in other words, what's your soul's purpose? What did you come to experience? So the soul has incredible knowledge. Like you could say, I know Einstein's theory of E equals MC squared. But do you know where the numbers come from that go into that formula? Do you know where to tweak the formula? Do you know when another formula is better to apply it instead? So you don't have necessarily the experience to go with the knowledge that you hold. And so the soul comes down here to gain experience in certain areas, not the knowledge, because we already have it, but we gain the experience, so then we can really utilize the knowledge that we already hold.
Okay, got it. So Sharon, also, when we talk about names, so in India, let's suppose, not in India, but in the Hindu religion, so people are, people are named on the basis of, religion-wise. Let's suppose if you're a Hindu, so your parents would name you in Sanskrit or in Hindi. Whereas if you're a Muslim, so they would name as per their religion. If you're a Christian, so as per their religion. So does that make any difference?
Nope, not at all. It's just the letters and their placement and where the letters are placed and what they're sitting next to. So as long as they're using our lettering system, you can interpret any name from any religion and any culture. It's just when they're using Hanji or Kanji or one of those that it doesn't translate well. But as long as the letters that we use are the same in another language, that works.
Okay. So how can we know that we have not named our child correctly, or the priest or the shaman have not named the child correctly?
Some of that is just trust, because I don't think mistakes happen. I think the souls know how to impress upon the one that's going to name them what they want to be called. So what is on paper, that's their life plan. And I believe that they get a lot of help from the other side to make sure that that impression is accurate. Even if they want to change it later, saying, hey, I want to go about this differently, that life plan is still secure. Your contract with God is in gold. I always want to say it's written in gold. It's right there and it's rich.
Okay. So, I know that's not possible, but still, I would like to ask you that can, by knowing our name, or after knowing if we take a session, after knowing this purpose and everything, can we also know when the bad events are going to happen with us, and when are we going to die? Okay,
so you have a life plan that's laid out for you. There is a time in everybody's name where the life plan ends. Now, that's when a lot of people, and there's usually 2 or more choices in the name that you can say, not going the way I thought it would, I want out. I think it's kind of like riding on a freeway, okay? And your name tells you can go on this freeway, but you cannot get off the freeway until there's an exit ramp. And so every name has at least 2, most have 3, occasionally people write in more, okay? Exit ramps, so there's no penalty. I can get off now of this freeway of life, okay? And then when there's a car crash, okay, on the freeway, I always think that's suicide, and look at all the inconvenience of all the cars around you, okay? And so that's when you're crashing instead of waiting for the next exit ramp. But your name indicates exactly where are the exit ramps and when the freeway ends. Now, does it mean you're going to die when the freeway ends? No, it means you've completed your plan for this lifetime. Now you have free will choice. Do you want to stay and do your bucket list? Do you want to stay and help others? Or are you saying, hey, I'm done, I'm out of here? You have choice.
Okay. That's a really interesting thing that you actually explained us. So before I let you go, one last question, Sharon. So, what happens is, we might have a feud with someone and we might not connect with someone with a particular name. So can also some adjustment be done with the names so that we can connect with the person with whom we are not able to connect?
Yes, the answer is yes. It's absolutely there. And that's in that book, How to Connect. It literally lets you know, depending on the letters in that person's name, how to connect with them, how to make a friendship. You know, it's kind of like people that fly with me when I'm going someplace on the airplane always joke because they say anybody who's sitting next to me wants to become my new BFF, my new best friend, because they say their name and I understand them so thoroughly. And that's what you can do too. So you'll know, this is the way to talk with this person. This is the way they can understand and hear you. And I always say anything you want as long as you know how to say it. So let me give you an example, Rajni. It says in a name when somebody's a liar. Okay, it literally shows up, or if they're a thief. Okay, it shows up in the name. So let's say somebody calls me for a reading and I look and I go, oh, you got the letters that say they're a liar. There's no way I'm going to say, oh, look, you're a liar, because that person's not going to listen. But if I say, one of the challenges in your name is how much truth are you going to tell? Are you going to tell 5% of the truth, 95% of the truth, 50% of the truth? How much truth are you going to tell? They laugh because they know darn well that the rest of the time they're lying. But I didn't call them a liar so they can hear it. So not only is it important to know that you can say anything as long as you know how. And that's also what some of the books teach.
That's really amazing and interesting. You know, listening to you and what you're actually explaining is so interesting, Sharon. But there's also one more question to you. So when we talk about choosing our partners, so it also happens that, you know, people go through so many breakups. So there are a lot of reasons attached to it. But with the correct name, if we take a reading or if we read your book, can we also find the correct partner for us with the correct name? And also, if you are having a partner currently, if one is having a partner currently, can they also know that is this person correct for us or not?
Yes, absolutely. Every once in a while, somebody will call me and say, oh, I'm in love with this one and yada, yada, yada. And I'll say, okay, this one's not good for you. And this is why. Now, I always ask them, when you start dating, call me, because once you're in love, you don't want to listen. But I don't have to say that often. I can say, here are the challenges and here's how to overcome them so they don't really become challenges and damage your relationship. That's what I would rather go. But every once in a while, I'm like, oh, no, this one's going to be violent. This one's going to be whatever. You don't want this one. Right. And if they're already in love, they do not listen to me. And that's when I get the phone calls 1 to 7 years later, and they go, I wish I would have listened. It has all come out.
Okay. So also, right now, obviously you have to read the book and you have to take a reading if you want to know it in detail. But still, if I ask you right now, can you tell the audiences some tips for choosing the correct name in their partner?
Okay, so one of the first things you want to look at is the communication style. You want compatible communication styles. So your first vowel, Rajni, in your name is an A. It doesn't have to be the first letter. Yours is the second letter, but it's an A. If you're looking at my name with Sharon, it's the third letter, but it's still an A. Okay, so A's match up with A's the best. But A's also go very well with I's and U's, okay? And they're okay with O's, but really the A, I, and the U are the best ones if I'm just looking at the communication style, so you're going to be most understood. So that means that the other vowels, the E, O, and Y, they go together. And in fact, when we did a study of a lot of married couples' names that had lasted 50 years or more, the vast majority of them had an E that married an O. They seemed to really have a compatible style. The next one was an A with an A. Okay? But so there's certain ones that I would kind of say, you've got to have some tact if your example going with an O, because both like to be the boss. And so you've got two Indian chiefs, as they say, but no Indians. So if you've got two leaders and no followers, that can create a conflict. So if an O falls in love with the first vowel of an O, I always say clearly define who's in charge of what, and the other one has got to not interfere. So like you're in charge of everything that has to do with the inside of the house, and I'm going to take care of everything outside the house, or whatever. You make it really clear, and then the other one has to realize that's off grounds. I don't get a say. Because if not, two bosses, they both want everything their own way. That doesn't work.
Okay, great. So basically, you actually have given a brief detail, but if you want to know in more detail, so you really have to take a reading, or rather read your books. Know your name, know how to connect, and know your name, know the spirit, and know in the name, know the person. So if you read
Right.
the books, yeah. So if you
And
read the
then at
books,
the
you
end of this year, know the name, know the health will come out because your health predispositions are in your name. So
okay.
that if you know ahead of time that you're predisposed towards a certain area or illness or something, you can take precautions now to make sure that doesn't happen. So one of the letters in the last name that's a fairly common letter is the O. Okay. And if the O is in the last name, it says anything that's in the last name says you're inheriting it through your DNA. So if an O is in the last name, it says you inherited a predisposition to being a diabetic in your DNA through your last name. Now, if you also have an O in your first name, it says you have got to be really careful because you are very receptive to that. But just knowing that you're a carrier of that, so you may want to adjust how you eat so that you don't become a diabetic because that's already there. And then you look at other people and you go, wow, they can eat all the sugar and it doesn't bother them. Well, they don't have any of the letters in their name that go along with being a diabetic. Okay, so that one will be coming out so that you can know from the first name as you're creating it for yourself in this lifetime. If it's in a middle name, if you have a middle name, then it means that you brought it in. You had it from last lifetime. You didn't cure it. You brought it in to finish it this time. And if it's in the last name, you're a carrier in your DNA of that particular predisposition. So that one will come out by the end of the year. You'll be able to order it fairly soon, but it'll come out before the end of the year.
That's really amazing. So we know now when to call you again for the show. And yes, we definitely would like to have you again for, whenever that book will be coming so that people can order it, read it. So because, I think, especially in these times, health is the utmost thing that people should be taking care of. So by knowing your name, if people can know about their health, so it's like a gift from the universe.
Yes, I think so, very much so. And that's why I did it. Because when I was a youngster, I had a reading when I was 13 with an astrologer. And she gave me some of that. And so I got very clear. She said my weakest link was my kidneys. So I chose at 13 not to drink alcohol because I said that hurts the kidneys. And so later on, I had a problem. And the doctor said, it's a good thing you don't drink alcohol or your kidneys would have been shot instead of just stressed. So I think, okay, that saved my life. So that's when I said, I want to go searching. When I realized that happened, I want to go searching for the combinations that go with what illness, with what letters, so that can help other people do the same thing.
Okay, that's really amazing. If you're helping so many people and you're helping them to know their purpose and to know for what have they taken birth, for what purpose have they taken birth in this earth. So you're doing a great job, Sharon. So thank you so much again for coming to SQ TV and speaking with us. It was so lovely having you on the show. And like I've already said, that we know now when to call you. So whenever your book will be coming out, we are going to contact you and have you again on SQ TV.
Great, Rajni. I'd love it. And thank you again for inviting me.
It's a pleasure always. All right, guys, that's it from SQ TV. Keep on watching and do subscribe.